Okay, so here maybe that's too strong and unnecessary. Oops, I'm forgetting. Hopefully I had enough Ctrl-Z operations to go back in time. We can configure that in expense of a bit more cache memory, I guess. I'm not sure if those results will be immediately good enough, probably not good enough to start, but to start with, that should be good. And this doesn't need to be perfect, right? It's just for the tutorial, just the presentation also, and we'll see. I hope this is good enough so that we can go further on the tutorial without much. Okay, so this looks, except for the top, some strange, because this is spline skinning. Some things might work a bit differently than we are used to. Okay, so you see that the eyebrows is being shaped because it is also, the bones of the eyebrows are constrained to it, but I can manipulate them separately, so this shouldn't be a problem, right? So this is a good thing. So let's forget about the eyebrows for now, but it was interesting to show. So that setup is actually working. This seems to be kind of smooth deformation. It looks looking not too bad. Let's see what we can have from here. Maybe more waves are required to this bone so that I can really push that mesh. Yeah, then you see when it could be relevant to have waves on the eyelids, right? So the eyelids mesh, it would move also to the bottom at a lower level as I do this kind of, try to attempt this kind of expression without necessarily posing the eyelid bones. So that's why it might be relevant. And now this cool expression, let's see. Yeah, it's with more splines, it's smoother. It's smoother, and for now let's consider that this part is completed. This was not too hard to do, but still is not the best results, right? We can improve this by a lot if we dedicate more time into this. I will leave these corrections for later, because actually what must be considered is that it's easier to wave paint this influence from the eye contour rig into the eyelids rig when we can already pose the eyelids mesh, because then we can stretch the mesh for the eyelids, both the top and the bottom eyelid, so that we can use this as an advantage for wave painting those small areas. We turn them into temporarily big areas, so that helps a lot. That said, let's now do the opposite. I want to address only the mesh for the eyelids, and this is more crucial. The eyelids rig shouldn't be influencing the eye contour rig, in my opinion. I think it's not a good idea. However, the inverse is good, because it's an overarching structure, right? The eye contour rig. Now I go on edit mode. I want the eyelids mesh. Let's see, eyelids here. That other is not selected, that edge loop, nor not even that one. So for the eyelids, sometimes I pick that one, but this time I just am interested in this mesh for the surface of the eyelids. I could make a distinction between top and bottom eyelid in terms of vertex group to have better organization. I don't need this in this tutorial. It can sometimes be a good idea. With this selection, I go back on object mode, then wave paint mode. So I want to wave paint these 4 bones. So let's start with this one. And now, of course, I need to be careful about the bottom eyelid, like as the full weights here. After I fix that, I can easily pose that bone and already start to this stop being a really gigantic concern, right? This proximity between the 2 eyelids. So now the strategy that I make for this wave painting is so let me wave paint the whole thing first so that it's more posable, right? So now this is very tricky. Because of the mesh topology and the deformations that I want to make, there are many things here that are interesting to observe. And there's a lot of trial and errors here. Remember, this is spline skinning. Alright, I need, of course, the other bone here, which currently has nothing, no waves on it. So let's start making this true. The most important thing is to have waves on this limit, right? The edge of the eyelids. And then at the corners, it's better to have nearly no waves or very low waves, because what we want to do as we pose the eyelids handler control bones is that we want the mesh to be concentrated on those regions, right? And this must go in different, let's say, levels. So this is the delicate part about this. I still require a lot of wave painting here. So let's do this. Oops, not there. Let's give some waves here. Sharing waves here is important, but not as it go too much to the other spline, right? This other one. So same. So let's try making first some waves, stronger waves here. Let's switch them. And actually, I've just figured out it could be good at this point that I just use this hidden, right? This will make this process much faster, right? Except that I won't be able to visualize more of the face, which makes all this process a bit weird, or weirder than it is. But it makes the switching faster, and this is a test of patience indeed. So in this case, making these changes, this approach might be better. Let's do a bit of wave painting for the bottom at once. So let's start with this first, then let's reduce this, right? And now here, this is too much, but we'll change that in a moment. And you see that my mesh geometry is really not that much. It's really kind of low poly, although there are subdivision surface modifier on. Even the subdivision surface modifier is really low level also. So now let's make those blurry a lot. Yes, we can have this even for that bone, and it could have some influence there too, not too much although. And here, of course, perhaps I should reduce the borders. Yes, but then I have to reinforce this. And let's re-blur. Let's pause this and see what we get. Ah, that's interesting, right? Okay, it could be smoothed out. Of course, we can do it from this other bone by sharing more influence. This will help smooth out the whole thing. So, because this bone, this handler controller is making transformations for both bones, so for both bendy bones. So this is important that they share some relevant amount of influence. And we can, so if we do this properly, we can get really smooth deformations for the eyelid. So actually, this looks a bit angular, too angular for my taste. So, but this can be solved sometimes depending on how we make it. Yeah, so maybe the way to solve it, let's see, smear tool sometimes is a bit strange to use, so let's keep using this, but at lower pressure, maybe what I need is just to have this thing, something like that maybe. Yes, and then blurring, but I want really soft blurring here. Even softer than that, maybe. Let's see. Well, visible, there are some good stuff, and sometimes, yeah, that's not too bad. Maybe I should augment the blur here. Sometimes you can see that in real time. So, too pointy, not a problem. Let's... Okay, so maybe I can reduce this. Okay, let's accept this for the bottom eyelid, at least this. And now this gapping is particularly tricky to solve. This bone is not supposed to go up like that. It should be able to solve this gapping by the posing of this one, with some posing of this one maybe, but by this rotation. So you see, it's not doing that very much. So this means that we might require some more adjustments here, which sometimes is not very clear what it should be. Should it be? So it can be pretty confusing with just two splines for the top and bottom eyelid. You see, now it's a bit better. I just made some more blur here. It's sometimes not very intuitive.